there's definitely a little bit of weight being carried for sure. Me and Medina right now, we're so close in points. So there's definitely a little bit of a tension there. Worked so hard all year to put yourself in this position. Just want to go do what I'm going to do and hopefully beat him.
It's amazing to think about the age of both these kids in the water. They have the best surfing in front of them.
To have the Jeep Leader jersey here in Portugal is pretty awesome. I'm so stoked, and it's going to be an awesome finish to the year. But dream is to win the world title, so I'm just going to do everything I can to do it.
Bon dia and welcome back to Super Tubos here for the MEO Rip Curl Pro as we continue with action in the waiting period to see if we'll get round 5 back underway. Michelle Perez on deck with Julian Wilson just in case we get a quick start. As we know, we've gone mobile. We're back here at the main event site here at Super Tubos in the middle of a great world title race. Joe Turpel alongside Ross Williams and former world champ Martin Potter. It's so exciting to check out the title race, looking at the Jeep leaderboard with two names really creating such a fun rivalry in the sport, Ross.
And the longevity of this rivalry is legit. You know, both these surfers are in their mid to early 20s, so we're going to be in for it for a long time. And the talent, you know, everything about them is perfect. And when we kind of like make up this rivalry feeling, it's so tangible because, you know, they really do take shape. They're different characters.
It's really fun to break it down in their skill sets, Potts, as we think back to every category that you need to do well at. Big carves, power surfing, airs, big barrels, competitive mindset. These guys are pushing each other farther than anybody.
Absolutely. I think, you know, these guys are the epitome of a professional surfer. You know, they've got every aspect of the game down, whether it's the tube ride, airs, as you said, Joe. I mean, there's no weaknesses in their game, and if you try and pick apart both their styles and their approaches, I mean, there really is nowhere to sort of hide from those guys.
Well, we've gone mobile, back to the main event site here at Super Tubos, hopefully with a chance to run action with a ton of energy feeling behind us. Let's now get the official call with Rosie Hodge and Deputy Commissioner Travis Logie.
Thank you so much, Joe. We are back at Super Tubos. There's been a couple nugs out in the lineup. Trav, what's the call for today?
Yeah, it's wild and woolly out there and solid, and there's some chunky barrels. So we're going to go on hold until 9 a.m. There's some amazing waves, but like I said, it's still a little bit affected by that storm, and the wind's supposed to clock a little bit more offshore through the day and drop and clean up a little bit. So yeah, we'll keep checking it.
All right, there you have it, guys, on hold until 9 a.m., but there are some gems out there. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Rosie and Travis Logie, for just extending the call to 9 o'clock, so a little less than an hour from now. Meanwhile, John Florence having a super session almost all by himself. Ross, you've been watching this lineup closely. What has the Hawaiian been doing out there?
Oh, man, he's been going off. I've seen him on 3 or 4 waves, and all of them have been an 8-point ride or higher. If I was a judge, he's getting some big barrels, and it does look a lot like kind of a crazy day on the North Shore with some kind of Kona winds. So something that John is used to. Here's one of his waves right here. So it is treacherous out there. There's crazy heavy late drops. There's some definitely a little bit of chop left pots, but you know, John, he knows how to sniff them out.
Absolutely. I mean, he's been doing that every morning now, hasn't he? I mean, no matter where we move the contest to, no matter what the conditions are like, he's out there practicing, and I think it's really important to keep in touch with that. Get out there every morning, you know, just dust the cobwebs out and have a few waves. But this is right up his alley. I mean, this is danger signs for the rest of the field if we run today.
We saw in that piece leading into the show, John talking about the rivalry with Medina, saying there is tension there. They qualified at the same time at the mid-season rotation. Actually, in 2011, at the time, Medina was still 17. Gabriel got 2 wins quickly on the back half, where it took a little bit longer for John to achieve his first win. But in that whole complete season, once Rookie of the Year was decided, it was Florence that took that honor. It seemed like the rivalry was just at its early stages, Ross.
Pretty amazing and incredible that Gabriel Medina was able to win 2 CTs as just a teenager. But again, yeah, the writing was on the wall for this rivalry, and I really like the contrast between the characters. Potts, you nailed it. There's no holes in their game in terms of what they can do on a surfboard. but they're so unique with their own styles. Gabriel's got a little bit of a wider stance and maybe more consistent, more of a steely competitor, but John a little more of an artist. Looks a little cooler on his board, but sometimes buckles under pressure. So you got like the pros and cons for each surfer.
Absolutely, but we talk about John buckling under pressure, but we haven't really seen that this year. I mean, everyone's had highs and lows. There's been moments where these guys are beatable, but you look at what John's done over the last 6 months, and he's fine-tuning his professional surfing game. He's that competitive headspace, and there's gone are the days of him just going for broke. He's surfing to get the scores now. He's surfing smarter. He's not falling off as much, and I think that is a credit to all the hard work that he's done, and he's put himself in that world title position. So.
Such a fun
Exciting.
rivalry, breaking down all the categories, and we're just going to pick one. We're going to focus on the aerial comparison between Medina and John. Ross and Potts are going to decide who is better. That's coming up next. Welcome back to Dawn Patrol here at the MEO Rip Curl Pro Portugal. Stop 10 of the season as we focus in on the title race. John Florence, still world number one, wearing the Jeep Yellow jersey. Guillermo Medina, a former world champ, knocked out of the contest by Jeremy Flores in round 3. An event that he's made the final in the past, making the title race even more interesting. Joe Chappelle, Ross Williams, and Martin Potter, as we want to break down all the categories. Air conversation's so fun. Potts and aerial pioneer yourself. Then, Ross, your era kind of took and ran with it in the 90s. What's changed since then, Ross, as you look back at the air game?
It's just gotten higher, more technical. They've gotten better at it, basically. And I think they've taken a lot of notes from skateboarding and snowboarding, and they've taken it to the water, which is so hard to do. Surfing all these years has been more of a sport where you stick true to the roots of surfing, but it's taken a little bit of a departure from that, and I go, you know what, skateboarding and snowboarding is really cool, let's go ahead and mix that into surfing, and now you got the best of both worlds.
Going back to a specialty event we had at Karamas in Bali, it just suited the skill sets of a man named John Florence, and at that time we were wondering if this alley-oop he performed in the jersey was the biggest one ever completed, Potts.
I think it is. I mean, you look at what's gone down today, look at the board is super inverted, the tail is probably about 6 to 8 foot, maybe even more out the back of the wave. But what really impresses me is the way this kid lands them. I mean, look at that perfect landing, perfect ramp too. I mean, that's stuff you can't teach, that's stuff that just has to come by pure talent, pure just instinct, natural ability. I mean, John's got that full rotation in the air, no grab, and the thing that really impresses me with this one is just the way he lands that thing. I mean, that's just incredible stuff.
And that was at Karamis, Joe, where you know, a lot of the waves at Karamis, it kind of bends out to sea just a little bit, so it's kind of tough to do airs there. And so that alley-oop is the perfect, like you said, Pot's a natural reaction to the wave, and just with a jersey on, that's incredible. That's something that we didn't used to see back in the day. And John and Gabriel and all the other guys have changed that. They're like, it doesn't matter if we're in a contest, we're going to go big.
Really impressive. John also had the ankle brace on in the middle of that maneuver, recovering from another injury that he'd perform above the lip. John, Medina both have that wow factor where they can give you something that we've never seen before on demand. Obviously, it's pretty chunky out front of this free surf. We've seen John get some pretty heavy barrels, but looks like he's already planning to ramp up as well, Ross. This just happened early this morning, a big flyaway kick out.
This reminds me of where John's from on the North Shore, Kona wind. So just kind of sweeping into the right-handers, and luckily the swell direction is also conducive for the right-handers. But so it's so big right now, the airs are sketchy. You're going to go way higher than you want to safely land, but that wind is good for holding the board to your feet.
Really excited to see this rivalry unfold. Obviously, John's still in the contest. We saw the air from Bali. Now focusing on Gabriel Medina for what he's done in the Jersey Pots. We can go back to a solid 10-point ride that he accomplished in France, one of his pet events, in a round 4 heat with Owen Wright and Matt Wilkinson last year.
Yeah, just that rotation, that landing as well. I mean, look at the conditions too. Light offshore winds, and everyone you sort of look at the aerial maneuver and think, okay, we need that onshore wind to keep the board on your feet. But the kids in this day and age, I mean, they've got such a variety of ways to do it, even in those offshore conditions. Able to punt sort of towards the beach using the wind, using those offshore winds. So it doesn't really matter with these guys, especially John and Medina. They've got an arsenal of different kinds of ways to do it, and I mean, it's and to do it under pressure situations is just unbelievable.
Ross, are you noticing anything different in their technique on how they get the height, comparing their footwork when they go above the lip, or are they relatively the same?
Well, yeah, they definitely their styles are so different. You got Gabriel Medina, who has a pretty wide stance. His knees a little more bowed out, which makes him really consistent. John has a narrow stance, but he adjusts nicely. Once John sees a ramp, he pushes that front foot way forward. And then along with, Julian and there's Felipe, a lot of those guys, they do that same technique where they pick the nose. But John kind of has made that popular. That flip right there is ridiculous, though. That has nothing to do with stance. That's just him going big and grabbing the rail and doing a flip. That is crazy.
We got to see this flip earlier this season in Rio, and this is where Gabriel Medina really started putting himself in the world title picture. Got the 10 for the flip, but he also had a 9.4 in that same heat. The rotation we saw from Bells a couple of years ago, when John was inverted off-axis full rotation over at the Rincon section of Bells, that was right in front of Medina, and then he finished with a layback finishing move. These guys are bringing us the most memorable rides of the last couple of seasons.
There's a handful of guys in the world that can produce those kind of turns or those kind of maneuvers in a critical situation, and John and Medina lead the pack in that respect. Obviously Toledo, Wilson, there's a Italo Ferrer, there's a bunch of guys right behind them, but you look at number 1 and number 2 in the world. I mean, these guys are constantly producing those kind of turns. Gone are the days of letting those closeouts go, because they can, with one major maneuver, your back's against the wall.
Well, we've seen some of the key airs in the last couple of years. My favorite part, Ross Potts, who is better above the lip? You had to pick one. Aerialist. Potts, you want to go first?
I can't split him. I mean, we've just seen some of the most craziest maneuvers. They're both different, they're both amazing. It's like looking at a painting going, which one's better? It's it's style. Obviously they're both different styles, they both stand with different stances. I can't split them, Joe.
I think it really is like, do you like apple pie or do you like chocolate cake? I really like them both. I will say Gabriel Medina, he's so consistent in competition, and the whole scope of just the airs that have been done on this planet, I would say John has the edge. All his films and everything, it's kind of proof, but it's not like Gabriel's that far behind him. But if I had to choose one, John's a little better.
Really impressive looking at those two pushing the sport harder than anybody in the world.
What about you?
Apple pie,
it's
chocolate
a good
cake.
question. I love the backflip that we got to see. I love anything groundbreaking, something we haven't gotten to see yet in competition too and under pressure. And I think Medina maybe has given us more groundbreaking airs this season. So I'm appreciating that. But like you guys said, it's just watching two of the best push the sport. And without each other, I don't think we'd see as many as we are right now.
Absolutely.
Really loving the conversation. Medina and John giving us a great rivalry here in 2016. More on that rivalry coming up next on the show.
I'm getting stronger, and I'm not afraid to fall. Thick-skinned, I'm smarter and faster. It's supernatural. One by one, gather believers, building an empire. Take prisoners, conquering leaders. Whatever I desire, maybe it's in my future. Maybe it's in my head. The voices are getting louder. I'm believing what they said. I have the power. You'll be the hero. You'll be the villain. It doesn't really matter. I have the power. Put in my feet and your life in my hands. My finger on the trigger. I have the power. Higher than the fire that's inside of me. It's impossible to.
Welcome back to Dawn Patrol. We're talking about the new school rivalry with John Florence and Gabriel Medina here on the show as we still wait for the next call, which will be at 9 o'clock local time. And it's a fun rivalry. Broke down the airs, and it was hard to separate the two as they're pushing it harder than anybody. And you can kind of go back to dive into this rivalry further because they qualified at the same time. John just 2 years older than Medina, and they've met multiple times in matchups, and it's almost relatively even with 4 to 3 wins apiece. So they always are battling, no matter what the venue's at. John got Medina early when they were rookies and second year on tour, and then Medina had 2 straight years where he was undefeated against John, even in waves of consequence like Cloudbreak, which makes it even more of a story. We're going to go into the barrel topic because Ross, they had a super heat this year at the Billabong Pro Tahiti.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool that the waves weren't giant, but it was still hollow. And I think in general, when you try to really balance out and see who's ahead in this rivalry, which is so fun to do, I would say Gabriel Medina has the edge competitively. John has the edge with just surfing that's been done so far with movies and all that. But John's really desperately trying to catch up with the competing department pots. That's where he wants to improve in his career.
Absolutely, Ross. Hit the nail on the head. I mean, Medina already a world champion. John's looking for his first. Medina a natural competitor. John a natural surfer, so to speak. So, I mean, this is going to be an unbelievably healthy rivalry. I mean, you talk about the classics of the Andy Irons, Kelly Slater rivalry. I think this is going to surpass that just because of their age, Ross. Like you said earlier, these guys still haven't hit the prime of their life yet, and we're seeing some crazy stuff already.
And we get to see one goofy foot, one regular. It doesn't get any better than this. This heat, as we look back on, Medina had a 10 in this heat and lost to John. 4-3 all time with Medina leaving the one-on-one matchups. But remember the round 3 heat year before, Ross, these guys push each other, always going 19-plus heat totals when it comes to Chopo.
Yeah, it was it. So the year before it was high performance, right? And the same contest, and then this year was small little barrels. But it's just kind of crazy to watch these guys go head to head like this because they're going to be. Well, Gabriel Medina always he always has the edge with being intense, and then John is kind of cleaning up that act with his competitive career, adding that intensity to his surfing. He's always an artist on the wave, but now he's really bringing that competitor to life.
I think the only thing really that might sort of put a little damper on this rivalry is injuries. I think if both these guys can, you look at the way they surf, I mean, pushing the limits constantly, if they can both maintain a sort of level of fitness and stay away from those injuries, I think we'll see a very long and illustrious competitive rivalry for
As
sure.
it feels like Medina's kind of been more successful at that, staying healthy through a season, 2014, doing so well at Chopu, doing well at Cloudbreak, doing well at Pipeline, result-wise. Those are the venues you're expecting John to win every single year, Ross.
Yeah, it's true. Well, you know, Potts, you bring up a great point there with injuries, and I would say Gabriel Medina, maybe the reason why he's been able to avoid injuries, he's a thicker guy. He's got a little more muscle around his knees and joints and stuff, so a little more protection there. But again, John's catching up in that department. He's starting to train a lot, which he never used to do, really. He just surf, and now he's actually in the gym. And so trying to loosen up all the tight ends and go, you know what, I want to be a competitor. I want to be a world champ.
As we check out the numbers with these two all-stars on tour, career stats for Gabriel Medina, currently number 2 in the world, hoping for his 2nd world title in his 6th year on tour. He has 7 CT wins. 2 of those wins were at just 17 years of age. 3 wins in his world title year in 2014. Career average 13.98 average heat score, counting your top 2 waves, and a solid winning percentage. And changing that to John Florence, they qualified at the same time. He has 3 CT wins, Brazil champ 2 times in his career, and also a win in France, now number 1 in the world, with a chance to seal the deal in his 1st world title. He stole the Rookie of the Year honor off of Medina, which is making this one so exciting, Potts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, you look at those stats, obviously both incredibly insane averages, and you know, you look at John with only 3 event wins, and I think that's going to improve dramatically. You talk about, you know, events that he hasn't won yet, Chopu and Pipeline. I think that's on the list of stuff that's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, you know, and along with the world title as well.
Better in the barrel. Now that's the new question. Ross, you want to kick this one off?
I'm sticking with that same theory. I think John's better in the barrel, but he's proven himself with free surfing. Where, you know, you look at those stats right there, and Gabriel's by far the better competitor so far. You know, he's got a world title, he's got twice as many CT wins, so he's got the edge there. But when you talk about talent, capability, John's got the edge there. And then the other thing that's just kind of puts sugar all over this rivalry is their characters. They're so different. Gabriel's more serious and intense. John's more humble and cruisy.
Yep.
Just so fun to kind of, you know, choose your favorite guy.
Do you think that humble and cruisy's got to change, though, if he wants to try and rival Medina's competitive prowess?
I think he found it. I really do. You know, he knows how to flip the switch. So, you know, once he's done competing, he's still John. He's still the happy-go-lucky, wet Labrador. But when he puts the yellow jersey on, he has been getting serious. We saw him this year. Remember after Bells, he splashed the water, and he might have even cursed. Oh, no. You know, so John, he's definitely found that feisty competitor.
We've seen that intensity. So really exciting stuff with number 1 and 2 in the world. And John Florence can control his own destiny if he wins this contest to take his 1st world title for Hawaii. We'll take a break. We'll return to Dawn Patrol right after this.
The voices are getting louder. I believe in what they said. I have the
Welcome back to this small fishing village called Peniche. We're here at Super Tubos waiting for the next call, and one man that's focused on that call is Julian Wilson, former event champ. Beat Medina in a close decision a couple of years back as he takes on Michel Perez, Joe Chappelle with Ross Williams and Martin Potter. And we look how important Julian might end up playing and Michel might be playing in this world title race. The winner of that heat meets John Florence in the quarterfinals. We've seen how Jeremy Flores has been acting as a spoiler. Ross, when you think about playing a spoiler role as a former competitor, is that something you want to sign up for on tour?
It is, and there's a lot of pressure. I don't remember which world title it was for Kelly, but one of the years he won, I had Danny Wills in a heat-up pipe, and got Danny in that heat, and Kelly was so stoked. But I remember feeling the pressure for my buddy, like, wow, okay. He's like, really do your best out there, man, because it meant so much to him, obviously. But I think for Julian, you know, he's so competitive. He's going to be thinking about his own business.
So Julian, Michel Perez coming up potentially in the first heat if we get going after 9 o'clock, followed by Flores and Connor Coffin, and then Stu Kennedy and Sebastian Zietz. Looking at that bottom half of the draw, South Africa's Jordy Smith is another one to watch in the world title race. Pots.
Yeah, I mean, if Jordy wins this event, you know, we're going to see the world title race go to Hawaii, which should be kind of cool. But, you know, John, it's in his hands right now. If he goes on to win this event, the world title is his. So exciting stuff, Joe, really.
As we check out the numbers once again, John in yellow can control his own destiny. Taking a win here, he can close this one out. If he makes the final, Medina would be out of the title race. So we're really focused on Florence, Jordy Smith, different ends of the draw. They could end up matching up in this final showdown, which would be incredible for the world title race. We always love when it goes down to pipe, especially in crazy conditions, and we'll see what happens this year, Ross.
Yeah, and speaking of pipe, just looking over my shoulder, every once in a while there's an absolutely sick wave coming in. So hopefully in the next half hour the waves really shape up.
Pots, fingers crossed?
Fingers crossed, let's get this thing going.
Well, next call will be at 9 o'clock local time. It's coming up pretty quick, so we'll see you then for the WSL update. Take care.